The Independent National Electoral Commission has said that it is prepared to conduct the OSUN governorship election on July 16, 2022. Stakeholders are hoping that the incidents of vote buying and irregularities recorded during the Ekiti election will be minimized in the OSUN election. Let me take perspectives from Ario there. What are the lessons from the Ekiti state governorship election that we shouldn't see playing out in the OSUN governorship election?
Well, I would also like to say that I think on our part as civil society, civil actors, we left it late. Hopefully, we'll be able to have the resources to do that ahead of the 2023 general elections. The issue of vote buying needs a lot of intervention, a lot of ingenious ideas that we can bring on board to be able to address this concern. But one primary thing that I think may be missing now is that, before the Ekiti elections, my organization we told the FCC to come to Ekiti, not just to be toothless, bulldog, but to act, arrest, and prosecute. Yeah, the FCC came to Ekiti. The FCC arrested, but we have not seen prosecution. We have also written a letter to them a couple of days ago, asking them to ensure prosecution in order to serve as a deterrent, to Osun State. If the FCC, for instance, this week, today is already Tuesday. If by Wednesday and Thursday there is news that those who are arrested in Ekiti have been taken to court, I bet you, because of the way news spread very fast in the current reality of the world, it will send jitters down the spines of the voters in Osun State. And it could be a campaign slogan that, hey, you never can tell where FCC is going to emerge from. The FCC is watching you. And it's going to be something, the way this narrative, could become a very, very predatory, narrative in terms of catching people who want to commit this. So, unfortunately, we've not been able to see that on the FCC. Maybe we'll still make more, we'll still put pressure on them. Like that, campaigning. For instance, my organization, we don't have resources for the Osun State elections. We were there in Ekiti for a few days where we talked about the issue of vote buying. We introduced an ingenious idea telling them the cost of their vote, which we put at 1.44 million naira. We said a vote in Nigeria costs 1.44 million naira. We said, how do you arrive at that? When you multiply the minimum wage by the number of if 30,000 multiplied by 48 months gives you 1.44 million naira, why should you collect 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 and lose all? We also have a social cultural message that you will be guilty before God and be worthless before man. Those are the kind of the thing we thought that we'll be able to appeal to the conscience of Nigeria, that this 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira will make you to be worthless before man, and you will also have your voice. And when you go on your knee to pray to God, God is not going to answer you, because our people love prayers, they love religion, that God will not see you as somebody who is serious, having sold your conscience.
Okay,
because
Mr. Rio.
Vote buying is a political equivalent of selling your birthright.
Mr. Rio, when you talk about vote buying, it appears as if we are focusing too much on the cash exchange. I mean, before election, we see bags of rice with people's names on it. We see bags of salt. We see bags of all sorts of stuff, soap with people's names on it. I mean, if somebody gives somebody a bag of rice in anticipation of getting the person's vote, isn't that vote buying? So I don't see anybody making the CSOs or anyone going after these politicians during the campaigns when they share these bags of rice or bags of salt and all of that, until a few days to the elections, and then we start talking about vote buying, which in my view is only the cash. But those bags of rice, bags of salt and all of that, I would say that they also amount to vote buying, right?
Yeah, you're right. If it is maybe properly debated in National Assembly and we can find a way to be able to explain this in terms of our law, then we could criminalize it. I know that the new electoral act talks about also pre-election inducement and all of that, but the problem here is this. The issue of this kind of initiative, very warped initiative on the part of political party giving bag of rice. Sometimes some of them will tell you that it is just an intervention to support a community or to support a particular group. So the reality will now be to limit this to what happens on election day, because the fact that the bags of rice have been given, so have been given before the election day, may not necessarily be It's also this campaign at the grassroots level sometimes that collect their money and vote your conscience. That has even started long before now, and we've seen that happening, really. For instance, even in party primaries, where somebody fainted, I think in the South or Southeast, where somebody spent money and fainted. I watched Senator Oloriegbe talked about he gave people money before the primaries, and 17 of them returned it. He lost the election. So we've seen that. But on election day, the reality is that people are monitored, people are giving money, and that was why we also engaged INEC to talk about the positioning of the ballot box. There is another ingenious model we are coming up with, which we also want to advise INEC. And this model is the fact that the cubicle in which you vote, there should be a bag attached under the cubicle. It's not the rubber type, but it's something that could be expanded in such a way that as you vote inside the cubicle, you do not need to go out of the cubicle and just drop your ballot paper. We know that our campaign, together with a practical demonstration on the part of INEC, in such a way that the moment the people are unable to come out of the cubicle and they drop their vote, the moment the voters, then it will reduce this inducement, this vote trafficking that is going on.
All right. Now let me hear from Jide Ojo. The OSUN election is more like a repeat of 2018 election between Ademola Adeleke and Adeboyega Oyetola. We have seen in certain instances, or I would say some videos that have gone viral, how that the major contenders are kind of boasting about having enough resources to, buy votes from the people there. Do you think that this is a major threat in that election? And again, I would like for you to also talk about the issues of violence. Already, Lasson Yusuf has said that his house was attacked and all that. So how do we checkmate that?
Well, we always, at every election, have two major challenges, which is election violence and then the issue of vote trading. I don't call it vote buying, I call it vote trading, because it's a trade. And the law has already adequately taken care of both scenarios. It's just the operators. I keep talking about these operators. Now, Section 121 and Section 127 of the Electoral Act, if you go and read it, if you possibly can have it, that I can give you the signed copy to download, and you can read it out very copiously, dealt with the issue even that my sister here raised about people inducing with gifts, souvenirs and all of those condiments and all of that. It criminalized it. And it's not only the giver. It talks about both the giver and the buyer, and the giver and the receiver. So, and it talks about voter inducement. It talked about even pre-election.
So why has implementation and prosecution become so very difficult? Why?
Talking to you about that law has its own limitations. It was said in Ekiti that even the law enforcement agencies, they saw where vote trading was taking place and they looked the other way, because usually from experience they are the first to be sorted. You know what it means to sort. So that is one. Two, issue of electoral violence, both in the Constitution and Electoral Act, there are measures that had already, Section 227 of the Constitution talks about not keeping a private army, and it further breaks it down in the Electoral Act. It saddles the Commissioner of Police with adequate responsibility and all of that, but not so deaf as those who will not hear. So it's not so much about lacking in laws. It is about the implementers, the operators of the system that are at fault. Let me give you an instance. You want to arrest people for vote trading, as I put it. You now wear jacket, EFCC jacket, and you are coming at people, and you think they will be, you do this as a sting operation. Do it as a sting operation, as a covert operation. Mingle with the crowd. There is the CID criminal investigation department operatives in the Nigerian police. There is DSS. There are DSS operatives that are deployed on election. There are EFCC anti-corruption agents. Why can't they work in mufti and do it even with body cameras so that you have enough evidence to prosecute people, and then set up mobile courts so that this issue of, okay, we are investigating and then the IPO is no longer, has been transferred, and then the core members who are witnesses can no longer be traced. If you do this as a mobile court, like you do on environmental sanitation days, okay, the body camera will show that you were involved in vote trading.
Okay.
And then apprehend them and get them arraigned.
So it's just clearly a case of
lack of political will. That's why we keep having this. And then the OSUN election, INEC should not be complacent. We are talking violence and we are talking vote trading. That is at the level of the political parties and contestants. INEC itself must up the ante. Issue of distribution of voters into polling units. Don't forget, they have newly created polling units that will now be tested on Saturday. Issue of the beavers working optimally. Issue of the collation process being very transparent. These are issues we must also keep an eye on.
Unfortunately, we have to go. Thank you so much for your thoughts on the program. Jide Ojo, political analyst and also a friend of the house. We also have joining us virtually Ario Dare Atoye, the Executive Director, Adopt a Goal for Development and co-convener Center for Liberty. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
And I think
it's a pleasure.